chapter belongs to the Islamic Center of Urban.
وسابقت الأحبة في تلاوته وأنعم حين ألقاهم بلقياه ولي شيخ إذا رتلت ألمحه تقبلني من الإعجاب عيناه.
والمدرسة معي في تكوين المركز بهذا
One that transcends time and leads us into the future. This is our story.
في زواياه أرى حلقاته فأذوب من وله ويهتف خاطري الله الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه العزيز: وأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: وعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم، وقال: فبما رحمة من الله لنت لهم ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك فاعف عنهم واستغفر لهم وشاورهم في الأمر فإذا عزمت فتوكل على الله إن الله يحب المتوكلين. صدق الله العظيم. My dear respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As the introduction was made, the thing that was mentioned was that many people find themselves at a crossroads sometimes. They find themselves at a point where they seem to be stuck. They have two options, two roads to traverse, and two decisions to make, and they don't know which decision to take. There is a hadith or reported hadith which has been mentioned by Tabarani, which says, "Ma khaba man istakhar wa ma nadima man istashar." That a person who makes istikhara, he will never be unsuccessful, and a person who makes istishara, basically he takes advice from people, he will never be a person who becomes upset at something, he will never be sorry. So this reported hadith, according to many scholars, is weak. And Shaykh Albani, he goes as far as to say that it's a mawdu or a fabricated hadith. But the gist of the subject is actually supported by the Quran and the Sunnah. Both things, the issue of istikhara and the issue of istishara and taking opinion from people, they are both supported from the Quran and the Sunnah. So first things first, I'm going to talk about istikhara. What is istikhara? If you look at it linguistically it means to seek khair, to seek goodness, to seek the better way. And when you are making istikhara, you are basically asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Oh Allah, show me what I'm supposed to be doing at this particular juncture in my life." So this is what istikhara is about. There are certain things that we need to be aware when it comes to istikhara. Anybody who is familiar with fiqh, or even basic fiqh, he's aware that there are certain categories of ibadat and categories of ahkam that a person is supposed to be doing. They are the fara'id, they are the wajibat, the sunan, the nawafil, the mandubat, meaning the mustahabbat. So in these things, there's no istikhara. There's no istikhara about these things. Well, should I get up to pray Fajr or not? Well, do you need to make istikhara to pray Fajr? No, you have to pray Fajr. You cannot basically shirk your responsibility and throw it at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him to guide you in this respect, because He has already laid down the rules for this thing. So in these ahkam, there is no istikhara that you're supposed to be doing. Istikhara is therefore then only in the things which a person is supposed to be doing, and he has basically, for example, he has two wajibs, two obligatory things that come up to him, and he doesn't know which option to take. For example, the issue of getting married has come up to him, and the obligation of Hajj has come up to him at the same time. So now at that particular juncture, at that crossroads, what does he decide? What does he do at that time, at that point? This is the time where he should make istikhara. Okay? So two girls give a proposal for marriage, or one girl gives a proposal for marriage. Should he proceed with this marriage or not? That's when you make istikhara. A person gets a job offer, and he is wondering whether he should take that job or not. This is the time where you make istikhara. The opportunity arises to move from one place to another place, a huge step in one's life, especially from moving from country to country. At that point, a person should make istikhara. So this istikhara actually, if you look at the history behind it, it replaced a lot of things that the Arabs used to do in the past, which were superstitions. Okay, so those superstitions that the Arabs used to, they used to practice were known as tiyarah. Okay, and the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in one hadith, la adwa wa la tiyarata wa la hammata wa la safar. Basically, 4 kinds of superstitions that the people used to practice. He said that there's no such thing, everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of those things was called tiyarah. Tiyarah is from the word tayr, which means bird. And what the people used to do, they used to leave their house in the morning, and they used to see in which direction are the birds flying. So for example, if they're flying from left to right, that means it's a good day today. Okay, I can proceed with my business. I should go ahead and do what I'm supposed to be doing, because everything's going to turn out fine. But if they're flying in the opposite direction, then that's it, go back inside, because it's going to be an unlucky day. It's going to be a misfortunate day. So people used to take this flying of the birds from left to right or right to left as an omen. And in this day and age, we have similar omens that we kind of think about and we even believe in sometimes, all right? So you have a black cat crosses your path, okay? So it's going to be a bad luck day today. Some people say good luck, some say bad luck. A person walks under a ladder and he says, I'm going to get 7 years bad luck, all right? Have you heard of these things before? All right, if you walk under a ladder, that's 7 years bad luck. Or if you break a mirror, that's 7 years bad luck. All of these are superstitions. Okay, all of these are wrong, and they are tantamount to shirk. And let me give you a couple more examples that people practice and think about. You've probably heard the phrase, touch wood, right? Okay? You say that, okay, alhamdulillah, my job's going fine, and then touch wood. You would go to a table which has wood in it, and you touch the wood. Does anybody even know what the significance of that is and where that came from? Okay? If you look at the books of history, you'll find that in the old days, the people that used to believe in these superstitions and they used to practice pagan rituals, they used to see woodpeckers pecking at the tree trunks. Okay, you've seen a woodpecker, right? Who knows what a woodpecker is? Everybody know? Okay? Do they call it a woodpecker in Australia? Or is it a kookaburra? What's a kookaburra? Is that a kind of a woodpecker too? No? All right. Okay, so woodpecker, they used to see it pecking on the tree. And they used to say that this woodpecker, this bird, he's actually conversing, he's talking to the tree, he's talking to the God which is found in the tree. So they used to think that touching wood at any given time was good luck. Okay, just like this woodpecker, touching the wood which has the God inside it, it is good luck. So that's what they used to believe. Then you may have come across this thing that people have which is called a rabbit's foot. Okay? They carry a rabbit's foot around them for good luck. Okay? The history behind that is that people, they used to see rabbits, and if you've ever seen a rabbit in the wild or even as a pet, it basically rubs the ground, okay? It tries to dig into the ground, it burrows into the ground. So the people used to say that this rabbit is basically conversing with the gods of the earth, okay? So because this paw of the rabbit, the foot of the rabbit, was used to converse with the gods of the earth, that means it must be very lucky. So they used to keep this rabbit paw with them. Okay, so these are examples that people still believe in and practice, yet they are tantamount to shirk. More common examples that you may have heard of, and especially found and that are prevalent in the Indian subcontinent, are the issue of palm reading. You go to a palm reader, which is completely haram. Any kind of fortune telling, it is not permissible. It is haram to engage in fortune telling and to go to a person who reads your fortune or reads your palm and tells you what the future holds for you. We should not be believing in it, and a person who does that, he is basically stepping into the boundaries of shirk. We're not supposed to be engaging in any type of fortune telling. Another aspect of that is astrology. Okay? It's very common if you go to India and Pakistan, they ask you, hey, what's your star sign? Okay, are you a Taurus? Are you a Pisces? Are you this or are you that? Are you Scorpio? And again, all of that is related to seeing the future by looking into the stars. And again, completely haram and complete form of shirk. So all of these things, we have to sideline them and replace them with something which is known as istikhara. Seeking khair from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeking this guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ultimately, what is istikhara? It is a form of dua. The Sahaba mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ, he used to teach us istikhara just like he used to teach us a surah of the Quran. He taught us istikhara just like he taught us a surah of the Quran. And the famous dua, many of you may know it, many of you may not, is Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmika wa astaqdiruka biqudratika wa as'aluka min fadlika al-azim فإنك تعلم ولا أعلم فإنك تقدر ولا أقدر وتعلم ولا أعلم وأنت علام الغيوب فإنك لو تعلم أن هذا الأمر خير لي في ديني ومعاشي وعاقبة أمري فاقدره لي ويسره لي وإن كنت تعلم أن هذا الأمر شر لي في ديني ومعاشي وعاقبة أمري فابعدني عنه وابعده عني واقدر لي الخير حيث كان ثم أرضني به. Basically, the translation is, oh Allah, I seek khair from you. I seek khair from you. I seek goodness from you. And I ask you to give from your own power your qudra. Let me just pull it up. And I ask you from your generosity, because you know you are able and I am not able. And you know and I don't know. You are the knower of the unseen. Oh Allah, if you know that this situation that I am making istikhara about, if it is good for me in my deen, my religion, and my sustenance, and in my last abode, there are different wordings found in different versions of the book, then make it easy for me, and then give barakah in it for me. And if you know that this situation is bad for me, then keep it away from me, keep me away from it, and then make khair available for me wherever it is. So this is the istikhara. So the Prophet ﷺ used to teach the Sahaba that whenever you are at this situation in your life, when you need to make a decision, then you should pray 2 rak'ah of istikhara, and then make this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now there are certain things that people assume about istikhara which are incorrect. Many people assume that they're supposed to actually get a dream after making istikhara. All right? They think that I must get a dream, otherwise my istikhara is invalid. Many people also think that I must get a feeling inside of me that, you know, this is the path that I should tread, and they think that that feeling is the guidance for them. And again, this is incorrect. Okay, so these two things are kind of myths which are propagated about istikhara. The Prophet ﷺ didn't tell people about dreams, and if a person has a dream, that's all well and good, but if a person does not, he should not panic. A person should continue to make the dua of istikhara as long as he is in this quandary, as long as he is in this confusion. Okay. He will see the situation will open up in front of him. If, for example, in the situation of marrying a girl, the parents start giving a hard time. They don't accept the proposal. Okay, so what's going to happen is you will realize that this is not the path for me to take, and you will pull yourself back. And let me tell you something else while I'm on the subject of marriage. Many people basically get into a relationship, and then they get in so deep to a relationship that after falling in love head over heels, and then realizing or thinking, assuming that I cannot live with this person anymore, that's when they start making istikhara. All right? That's not the time to make istikhara. Now your heart is basically with that person. You're in love with that person, okay? Or you're besotted with that person, okay? You're devoted to that person. So at that point, any kind of istikhara that you do is going to be contaminated with your own feelings, with the own feelings that you already have in your heart. So now it's too late to perform istikhara, because after performing the istikhara, you're going to think, yes, this is the person I want to marry. And it's not the istikhara that's going to influence you. It is your own desire that's influencing you. So there's a point where you're supposed to make istikhara and not cross that point, not get into a situation so deeply that you want to be in that situation and then perform istikhara. At that point, it's too late. At the beginning of the proposal, at the beginning of seeking a job, at the beginning of applying for a job or getting the job response, that's the time when you make the istikhara, and then after that, you will get a realization of what is correct and what is incorrect. Another thing we need to keep in mind is that ultimately, istikhara is a dua. Istikhara, it's a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And being a dua, all of the rules and regulations that are related to dua, the acceptance of the dua, they are also connected to this particular dua. So if a person is earning haram, then the dua is unlikely to be accepted. If a person is making dua of qat'ur rahim, or he is engaged in sins which will nullify a dua or make the dua not accepted, or he is making a dua without the hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the dua is going to be accepted, he is despondent about the acceptance of his du'as, then this dua of istikhara will also not be accepted. Because ultimately it's a dua. So what people tend to do with this dua and other du'as, it's very, very common that they think that I'm a sinner. I commit sins. I make mistakes. So my dua is unlikely to be accepted. So I'm not going to make dua. I'm going to tell my imam or the sheikh in the masjid or a pious person that I know, my grandfather, my grandmother, to make dua for me. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. Even the Prophet ﷺ, when Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was going for Umrah one day, he told him, لا تنسونا في دعائكم يا أخي. Oh, my little brother, do not forget us in your du'as. So asking somebody for dua, there's nothing particularly wrong with that. But with this understanding that I am such a sinner and I'm committing so many sins, I'm not praying my 5 times salat on time, so how is my dua going to be accepted? This is the wrong kind of attitude. You're basically what we call a cop-out. You're copping out of your responsibility of being a good Muslim, and then the next stage of that is that you're not willing to even raise your hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you feel ashamed to raise your hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if I have that feeling, then instead of copying out of this and telling other people to make dua for me, then I should actually see within myself the mistakes that I'm making and the sins that I'm committing and the deficiencies that I have. And then I should try to fix those deficiencies until I feel confident in the acceptance of my dua. And then on top of that, a person should never feel that the dua is rejected or not heard by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know the ayah, why it was revealed, right? قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. O my slaves who have transgressed against themselves, do not despair from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who was the person about whom this ayah was revealed? The person who killed Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu in the battle of Uhud, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Okay, so the dua is, first and foremost, we should learn how to make dua. We should make our lifestyle in such a way that we feel confident in raising our hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking from Him, where we spread our hands in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and feel confident that my life is pure and clean to the extent that I can raise my hands. And even if there are deficiencies in me, I should be able to, and I should take my time out to raise my hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make dua that, oh Allah, take me out of the problems that I'm in. Take me out of the sins that I'm committing so that I can be your pious slave. So these things we have to be aware about istikhara. Okay? This is istikhara. And remember this, one of the biggest benefits of making istikhara, it's a huge benefit, is that you will never be depressed about the situation that you're in. You'll never be depressed. You'll never feel suicidal. So many people, they commit suicide because the girl that they loved basically rejected them. Okay? Or they commit suicide because they lost money in the stock market. All right? But a person, when he makes istikhara, he is guided to such a degree that he realizes that if that proposal that I sent to that girl didn't go through, then maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows something about that girl that I'm not aware of right now, but I will find out later that she was not a good choice for me. Same thing for the sisters that have proposals sent to guys, to brothers. If the proposal doesn't go through, then they will realize that after they performed istikhara, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows something about that person that I'm not aware of, and He is keeping me away from that person, and it is better for me that right now He is taken away from my life so that I don't have problems in the future. So when a person, he loses the thing that he was anticipating, but he did istikhara in the course of pursuing that thing, he will feel comfortable and at ease that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually saved me from a problem and didn't allow me to get into a situation which I might regret later. Okay, so this is the biggest benefit of istikhara. Now moving on to the other thing. With istikhara, there's something that is known as istisharah. Istisharah means that a person actually takes advice from other people. And this is one of the biggest shortfalls that we have from the younger generation. They don't want to take advice from the elders because they think they know it all. Okay, they assume that just because they can find everything on Google, Sheikh Google tells them to do this or to do that, then that is the best advice and it is the most correct advice. The reality is that when you talk to an older person, when you talk to your parents, when you talk to your teacher, when you talk to your sheikh, your imam, you are benefiting from knowledge and experience. So it's important to take istishara and to take advice from people and to sit down. This concept of istishara and shura or mashura is something that we need to implement in our daily lives. Husbands, they need to make mashura with their wives about a decision that they're about to make. Should we buy this new property or not? Should we buy this house or not? Should we move to a new locality or not? So these things both go in hand in hand, istikhara and istishara. And there are a few verses in the Quran which talk about this issue of istishara. First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes this worldly life. فَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَمَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَمَا عِندَ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. Everything you've been given in this world, it is just the benefit of this world. And whatever is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is better and more everlasting. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to say, لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَأَبْقَى لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. And this is for the people of Iman, and they have tawakkul and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ يَجْتَنِبُونَ كَبَائِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَالْفَوَاحِشَ وَإِذَا مَا غَضِبُوا هُمْ يَغْفِرُونَ وَالَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمْ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. These people, they stay away from ma'asi, they stay away from the kaba'ir, and whenever they have any kind of situation, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. Whenever they want to decide something, they do it by shura and mutual consultation. Now let me tell you a story. My time is quickly running out. And this is the story of the Battle of Uhud. Who knows the story of the Battle of Uhud? Hands up. Like 50% of you are putting up your hands. I'm sure more of you know the story of the Battle of Uhud. What happened in the Battle of Uhud was, this was the second major battle in Islam. And this took place just outside Medina. The Prophet ﷺ, he had put on the side, it's called the Battle of Uhud because it took place right next to the Uhud mountain. Anybody who's been to Medina knows that in front of Jabal Uhud there's a small mountain, which is known as Jabalur Rumat, the mountain of the archers. The Prophet ﷺ had put some archers on top of this mountain and told them that even if you see the vultures picking at our dead bodies, do not move from this spot. He told them with such great emphasis that you're not supposed to leave this place. So the idea was that you're protecting us from being attacked from behind. So what happened was the battle started and the Muslims started getting a victory. They started winning. The disbelievers, they started retreating, and it looked like victory was in the hands of the Muslims. These archers that were on top of this mountain, this small mountain, Jabalur Rumat, they got excited. They said, victory is ours, and they started running down the mountain, thinking that victory was sealed. Khalid ibn al-Walid, who was not yet a Muslim, he saw these archers had left their position, and he decided to take the battalion behind the Muslims, the place which had been protected by the archers up until now. He took this battalion behind the Muslims, and now the Muslims were sandwiched in between the disbelievers. From both sides, they were being attacked. In the course of this confusion, what happened was that 70 Sahaba lost their lives. 70 Sahaba, they had lost their lives, it would seem needlessly. And amongst them, the beloved uncle of our Prophet ﷺ, Hamza radiallahu ta'ala, who was killed by Wahshi ibn Harb, about whom this ayah was revealed that I was talking about earlier. Even the Prophet ﷺ, he was injured in this battle. His face was bleeding, his tooth was broken, he was hit to such a point that somebody hit him, and the chainmail of his helmet basically got embedded into his cheek. Okay, so the metal actually went into his cheek, directly into his cheek. And even there was a rumor spread around about the Prophet ﷺ that he had been killed. So mass confusion ensued at that particular time, especially when you think that our leader, the person that we've been following all these years, he's been killed. You can imagine the confusion that reigned at that particular time. Anyway, after the battle finished and the Muslims basically went back to Medina, the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't make a huge fuss about these archers that had left their position. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says about this attitude of the Prophet ﷺ, and he actually tells him and gives him some advice, which is such beautiful advice for any person who's in any kind of leadership position. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says directly to the Prophet ﷺ, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَظًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ فَاعْفُ عَنْهُمْ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. Because of the fact, O Prophet of Allah, you had mercy inside of you, and you were gentle towards them. You were gentle towards them. And if you had been severe and hard-hearted towards them, they would have dispersed from around you. So forgive them. Forgive those people that because of their mistake, 70 people were killed, including your uncle was killed. Forgive them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Forgive them. وَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ. Seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them. And then this is the key point here. The next point, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. Those same people that made this mistake, continue to seek their advice. Continue to make shura with them. Continue to take their opinion from the people that made this huge mistake. This shows us the importance of shura. The Prophet ﷺ, he could have taken his advice and guidance directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. True or no? He could have taken his guidance directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him no. Those same companions of yours, yes, they made this mistake. Yes, they didn't listen to you. Yes, they should have stayed on that mountain. But forgive them, because everybody makes mistakes, and continue to seek advice from them. And after taking their advice, فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ, once you've decided to take a course, فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ, then put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this really should impress upon us the importance of the shura, that even the Prophet ﷺ was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not requested, commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take shura from those sahaba. Those same sahaba that made the mistake, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet to continue to take shura from them. So obviously, as humans, as families, as people working in an organization, within a masjid or a school, there are people that are going to obviously make mistakes, because we're all human. Does that mean that we kind of boycott those people that make mistakes? No. We need to keep them in the fold. We need to keep them connected. We need to keep them united. And this is what will make the community flourish. This will make the organization flourish. This will make your family flourish. And you will become a better unit because of the fact that you are making shura amongst yourselves. I'd like to just hit upon one point, one additional point. You know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, it is mentioned throughout the Quran in a few places, he called the angels and he talked to them. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. He told the angels that I'm going to make a vicegerent on this earth. I'm going to make a khalifa on the earth. So the angels, they started disputing, or started objecting, gave their opinions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا. Are you making on the earth somebody who's going to cause corruption on the earth? وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاء. And he's going to cause bloodshed? The question is Allah, right? He doesn't need to talk to anybody. He doesn't need anybody's advice. He doesn't need anybody's opinion. So why then did he even tell the angels this? Why did he tell the angels that he's going to make a khalifa on the earth? Some scholars are of the opinion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this to impress upon humanity that it doesn't matter how big you are as a human and how big your position is. You should not proceed in making decisions without taking opinions from your subordinates. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need to take shura. He has the wisdom and the knowledge of everything that has ever been and will ever be. But yet we find him in these places in the Quran consulting with the angels, not because he needs to, but to impress upon humanity the importance of consultation. So these are the two things. To summarize, istikhara and istishara. Istikhara is seeking khair from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance for what is the thing that a person intends to do. And istishara is following up that guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by taking advice from the people that are around you. And again, this concept of shura, you should be taking advice from people that are experienced in the particular field that you want to take advice about. Okay? So if you are wanting to go to medical school, you would take the advice of a doctor. And if you are seeking a religious opinion, then you would talk to a scholar, and so on and so forth. So depending on the person, the thing that you want to know about and you want to take an opinion about, that's the person that you would talk to, and that's the person you would consult. So both of these things, istikhara and istishara, have been sanctioned by the Quran and the Sunnah. The more we implement them, inshallah, the more goodness and barakah we will see in our lives. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us tawfiq to understand and practice what has been said and heard. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.